Yeah, I mean, air quality has been poor air quality, particularly, extreme concentrations such as what we are seeing currently, have been linked to various health effects, including respiratory cardiovascular diseases. And, particularly in these instances, you are also faced with acute health effects like asthma, and particularly the population that are vulnerable to air pollution, they suffer the most. So you pretty much see health effects across the board.
And of course, there are warnings for people to stay indoors, but also, with toxic levels that high, can it also impact people indoors as much as they can try to protect themselves from that sort of air coming in?
Yeah, of course. I think, it's basically how much of air from the outside can infiltrate into the homes, right? So it really depends on how well insulated, how sealed the homes are. But of course, here in India, you kind of see that infiltration happening from the outside. So the part of the air from outside will also impact the air quality within your homes.
Of course, there is a lot of outrage on social media, particularly in Delhi, about what's happening. But, they're apportioning the share of blame to governments, whether it's state or federal governments. But where is the blame gonna go to?
I think it's solving air pollution at this scale, right? It requires a collective approach. So the government is definitely doing its part in trying to address the emissions. These things take time to address, right? This is not kind of an overnight solution. But I think what's required here is definitely a collective approach, the states working together to resolve the problem, and as well as the citizens also helping in that process. So this, when you look at the air quality issues in particularly in Delhi NCR, when you look at it, nearly half of it is coming from outside Delhi, right? So it really stresses the point about needing to work together across the state geographical, political boundaries, and being able to address the emissions at the source. So I think it's a collective responsibility. It takes time, uh, but steps are being taken. There's definitely a lot of initiatives taken towards the transport sector, electrifying pretty much the transport sector. So that initiative is going at full speed. So there's definitely the need for emission control at the other sources as well to be able to deal with this problem.
Yes, and one of those sources, one of the biggest sources there is the burning of crop residues by farmers, even from hundreds of kilometers away. What's being done to stop this sort of practice in agriculture?
See, so when you talk about the stubble burning, the contribution of that crop residue burning again varies from day to day. Certain days it might be as low as, less than 5%, less than 10%, but certain days, obviously, it goes as much as 30% of the pollution. So this requires a combination of both policy change, incentives, as well as behavioral change, right? So on the government side, I think there are measures to provide incentives for farmers. Alternatives have been identified in terms of being able to avoid the crop residue burning. But there's also this need of behavioral change that needs to happen on the side of the farmers as well to be able to embrace those alternatives and take that up. So I think again, I think it's the action needs to happen from both sides, both the government and the citizens, uh, and really step up to the game in terms of being able to take up the alternatives that are provided, the incentives, and furthermore, incentives might help nudge that process along.
And do you believe that message and those incentives you're talking about, will that message go through to the farmers, and are they aware of what the consequences of what they're doing?
I, I think that's I think they are aware of the impact of uh, setting these crop residue on fire. They themselves are experiencing firsthand in terms of the health impacts. But I think it really boils down to probably the need for more communication, more awareness, and probably more better incentives that will kind of help the farmers to take that next step. It's The policies have been in place. There's been adoption of these alternatives, such as the happy seeder, that really allows to, instead of burning it, really till it and or the seed at the same time. But the uptake has been somewhat mixed. So certain years has been seeing good response, but certain years it's been mixed. So I think that's where the combination of policies as well as incentives, along with the behavioral change, needs to happen.
And just a
And
final
there also
question,
needs to
Prakash. What can you tell us about climate change? I mean, is this something that is making it even more difficult to address what's been happening?
So climate change, when you look at it, right, that is a kind of a long-term process, the long-term impact, right? But what you're looking at here is probably a dual feedback. If you look at it, see the activities such as this, where you have lots of combustion sources without being, controlled, or with the emission controls lacking, obviously then adds to the climate change problem, right? The black carbon is one of the pollutants that is emitted from incomplete combustion, and that definitely has high global warming potential, and that adds to the climate change over the long term. But the flip side, if you look at it, obviously the climate change leading to uncertainty in terms of rain, drought, and high heat, then obviously worsens these issues as well. Not necessarily during this winter season, but obviously, the whole cycle in terms of the rain and the crop season as well. It has implications on all of those.
Okay, Prakash Doraiswamy, really good to get your insights today. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.